Okay, this is Sunday morning, and instead of going to church like all of you do, I stay home and watch these stupid talk shows. And this is the time of the day when I give free, unsolicited advice to Kamala Harris. And I know what you're thinking. Why am I bothering? She doesn't watch this. Well, most of you don't either. I'm just doing this because I want to. So there. So this is about the economy. Honest to God. And I've ranted about this before, but just seeing it on TV today and seeing these polls where they show, oh, you know, she's getting a little closer to Trump on the economy, but people still think that the economy is the number one issue, and they're really upset about the economy. But you know what the polls show? Because I watch these things, and I know why I do that. Because I'm getting ready to try a case, and so I need a distraction. I'll take any excuse. That's the one I can think of on a moment's notice. Here's the thing that these polls show repeatedly. They ask people, how are you doing in the economy? Good, bad? And overwhelmingly they say, I'm doing well. And you know why? Because most of the people, and I'm repeating myself, but I'll make this quick. Most of the people whom they interview are people on the middle class. They own a home, they have stock in the bank, they have a job. Most of them are making more now than they were when Trump was president. And so they say, yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing pretty well. Repeated, it doesn't matter who they're asking, Republican, Democrat, most people, and there are always some, of course, are always going to have trouble no matter what the state of the economy. But there are, the vast majority say, I'm doing fine. Then they say, well, how about the economy as a whole? How about the country? Oh, it's doing terrible. Now, when they break those down by party, what you find is, and this is one of the things that drives me crazy about those of you who are my friends who are Republicans, is when it comes to politics, the Republicans, including many of you, treat politics like it's a football game. And I'm going to talk about that Michigan USC game in a little while, because I know you're all waiting to hear what I have to say about that. Okay, I'll say it right now. Michigan needs to get somebody who can throw a damn football. Enough of that. So, but the Republicans, when asked that question, overwhelmingly say the economy's doing terrible. And of course, most of them are among the people that they've asked the same question, how are you doing? I'm doing fine, thank you. But the economy's doing just terrible. Why? Because there's a Democrat in the White House. That's why. And they see it as a campaign issue. And I'm talking now about not the Republican politicians. I'm talking about the rank and file, people who answer these questions. The Democrats are not doing that. And they do the same thing when there's a Republican in the White House. And the Democrats still don't do that. But Republicans always do this. And I've been watching this for years. If there's a Democrat in the White House, no matter how well they're doing, they'll say the economy is in terrible shape. And poor little Kamala, she's up there, and every time they try to hit her with this, she doesn't want to say the economy's doing fine, because then people say, well, you're insensitive, and what about all these people out here who are, having a hard time buying a house? Nothing about the people who already own homes, but these poor people who can't buy a house, or their credit card bill is high, or the price of gasoline is too high. That one really ranks me, because, and I was complaining when the price of gasoline was high, now it's going way down. They're out there every holiday, record numbers of people on the road driving their cars from one end of the country to the other, in the meantime complaining about the price of gasoline. So that's asinine. But she's concerned that there are people out there who are saying, well, I'm struggling. I go there on the price of eggs. Stop eating eggs. You should be eating eggs anyway. You sound like these Haitians out there in Springfield eating dogs and cats and chickens and eggs. Nothing is safe from those people. When you're complaining about the price of eggs, well, why don't you just do what the Haitians do? Go steal some. So, anyway, that was a joke. I didn't mean it. Don't go stealing eggs and then come and ask me to defend you. I haven't done criminal law. since I was a public defender in the 1970s. So I'm not going to represent you, and I'm sure as hell not going to post your bail. If you steal chicken eggs, that's on you. And if you live in a neighborhood where you can find chicken eggs to steal, well, good for you. Yeah. I've looked myself. I have no luck. None of these Florida retirees are raising chickens, damn it. So, there we have it. The price of eggs. Oh, and the price of the... Well, let me tell you what is going up is my condo dues are going up. But that's not going up because of general inflation. Also, my automobile insurance is going up. And my homeowner's insurance, I don't even have homeowner's insurance on some of my homes because I can't afford it. You know, it's just like, what am I going to do? If a hurricane hits and I have to replace the roof. Well, that's cost me less to replace the roof than it does to pay for insurance for a year. So I'll just replace the damn roof, and nothing else is going to go because my homes are all built like, brick shit houses. Pardon my language. I meant to say adobe shit house. No, I didn't. Yeah, brick. That is it. Yeah, brick shit houses. So there's always going to be there's always going to be some inflation. And you know what inflation does? If those of you who have taken rudimentary economics, which is probably not most of you, inflation is a result of demand. More people want more stuff because more people have more, long green or bitcoins. Yeah, how do you hold a bitcoin? I don't know. I'll find out in a little bit and I'll let you know. So the bitcoins, forget that. But people want to have money to spend, and that's because we have an economy which we have full employment. Wages have gone up substantially, and as a result of that, there's more demand for products. What happens when you have more demand for products? Well, you usually have a shortage. And those of you who are paying attention, wake up. I know it's Sunday. Wake up anyway. That usually means there's a lack of supply. And you know when we see that? We've seen it with gas lines at the pumps because there's not enough gasoline. So that's what happens when you have real inflation. You have demand, increasing demand, usually because of decreasing supply. And so when you have that imbalance, then what happens? One or two things. Either the economy craters because it can't meet the supply, and things start going out of business, then people have to start lowering prices. And when they keep lowering them and lowering them and lowering them, then more and more people get laid off because there's less and less incentive to have more supply. And we're close to that. That's why they keep talking about this soft landing. Because inflation has come down and down and down until right now, if it drops much lower, we're looking at a recession. So it's about where it's supposed to be. I think it's 2.5 and they'd like it to be at 2.0. So what happens when you have some inflation, increased demand, not enough supply? Supply increases to meet the demand. And what happens when supply increases to meet the demand? It means factories go out and they hire people to make more products so they can sell them to you greedy people who have too much money to spend. So inflation pushes an economy into a growth mode. That's why you always have to have a little inflation to have economic growth. So right now, we have very strong economic growth. We have the most powerful, the strongest economy in terms of economic growth in GDP that we have had since Jack Kennedy was president, which I remember very well because I'm older than dirt. Hell, I remember when Abraham Lincoln was a kid. We went to high school together. Yeah. Get this. This guy's 6'7", and he didn't even try out for the basketball team. Yeah. I know they didn't have basketball teams then. So what? It's no excuse. 6'7", he's not playing basketball? Something wrong with that guy. Plus that ridiculous hat. And he wore that hat to school every day. Abraham Lincoln. I'm sorry, Russ. I couldn't help myself. You got me thinking about Lincoln, and because he was elected to the presidency exactly 100 years before Jack Kennedy, and they were both killed. Lincoln right at the end of his administration, of his first administration, beginning of his second one, and Kennedy was shot in 1963, so he was coming up on an election, and not immediately, but getting into that cycle. Lots of comparisons between the two, but Kennedy had a powerful economy, and a lot of that was because of Eisenhower. And I've been very critical of Eisenhower in the past, not because he's a bad person like Trump. Eisenhower was a very good person. even though my parents never forgave him for running around North Africa in a jeep driven by his mistress. They didn't like that a bit, but my parents were devout Catholics at the time. So, but Eisenhower, we had no debt under Eisenhower. We had 2 recessions. We were in a recession when Kennedy and Nixon ran against each other, which is one of the reasons, and I loved Kennedy, but that was one of the reasons he won. If it hadn't been for that, he probably would have lost. But the stage was set because we didn't have a debt. So Kennedy was able to go in and start borrowing money. Not like Reagan and Trump and all these other Republicans who are supposedly fiscally conservative, but enough that they could start priming certain portions of the economy, and the economy took off. And we had a little bit of inflation, which you have to have. And we had a little bit of debt, which economists will tell you is a good thing, a little bit of debt. And then we had all kinds of things, particularly with the Vietnam War and the Arab oil embargo and all kinds of stuff that I'm not going to bore you with right now. Well, eventually, you can count on it. But we had a great economy. This is the strongest economy in terms of our GDP that we've had since Kennedy. And we have it because of careful managing of the economy by this administration. And what Harris, if you're listening, Kamala, stop being defensive about the economy. Point to the polls that say, well, a lot of people are troubled, and there are certainly people struggling, and we're concerned about them, and we're going to try to do things to help people who are struggling. But the idea that this is a terrible economy and we should radically change it is wrong. And then I would go through and tick off. I would say, first of all, surveys and polls are showing that the overwhelming majority of people are satisfied with their own personal economies. Second thing, GDP is at an all-time high since Jack Kennedy. Third, we have full employment. Just go down the line of these things that I was just discussing, and point out, say these are all good things. So when you're talking about what are we going to do about the economy, be careful what you wish for, because Donald Trump is going to get in there and he's telling you what a terrible economy this is. And what does that tell you he intends to do? He intends to get in there and undo all the gains that we have made in the past 4 years. He's going to undo them because he's going to change the economy. He changes this economy. You can say goodbye to the increased value of your homes. You can say goodbye to the record stock market values of the stock that you own right now in your 401k. You can say goodbye to your all-time high income that you're receiving, your wages at an all-time high. You can see those start to go back down again. You can start seeing shortages again. This is what would happen if they went in there and had his way and started disrupting the economy that's in existence today. It would also, he'd undermine all the progress that we're making with our infrastructure, which is a big reason we have a lot of economic growth today. That was essential. We're bringing back major industries, including the chip industry, which is a matter of self-defense. Having all these chips manufactured overseas and not having our own chip manufacturing facilities up and operational and producing large scale chips, large numbers of chips, is a threat to our national security. We have reversed that. She should talk about all of these accomplishments, but not talk about them in abstract terms. Every time I hear her talking about these things, she sounds like a professor, and she sounds like she's afraid of them. And she's doing pretty well in the polls, but I think she could do a lot better if she would just take these head on. This economy's in great shape. This is why it's in great shape. If Trump gets a hold of the economy, he's going to reverse all of these gains. In the meantime, there are still pockets of places or people having problems. We're going to address those. But please don't ask me to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Ugh, that's a pretty disgusting thing. I'll never get that image out of my head. So, it's almost as bad as the Haitians. That's something Haitians do, They sneak into your homes, especially if you live in Springfield, Ohio, and if they catch your baby taking a bath, they'll throw him out the window. That's the kind of people they are. I told you I saw one eating a hamburger the other day. That's right. There's just 2 steps away from eating human beings. The next step, of course, is eating fellow Haitians. And then they're going to start eating human beings. They're terrible people, and I know that they have plans, because I've seen some of their plans, that they have plans to go around from house to house and get babies that are taking baths and throw them out the window. It's disgusting. Never vote for a Haitian. So, that was irony. I didn't mean it literally. Stop it already. Calm down. See, this is part of the problem with having liberals watching this. Liberals tend to take things a little bit too seriously sometimes. But I'm not holding the rest of you responsible for the attitudes of the right and the left. I think I did a podcast on this, or I should have, about how this is really, I've heard people say it's a center-right nation. I think it's a center-left nation. But what it really is, most of us are in the center. We're grouped together, slightly to the right, slightly to the left, depending on the issue. But unfortunately, we have far right has taken over the Republican Party. Far left still makes some unpleasant noises in the Democratic Party. But the Democratic Party, the center has pretty much maintained its control of the party. The Republican Party is just, they're in the throes of a crazy man. That's right, and that's not a good thing. It might be. Which reminds me, we should talk about football. But not now, because I know that maybe one or two of you went to Michigan, if that, and you don't care about Michigan football. Which means, I hate to say this, it means, as Trump would say, you're communists.